So my blanket is getting quite big now. I wasn't weaving in the ends as I was changing colours, or as I was changing balls of yarn. When I get to the end of the row and I change colour, I'm changing colour on every other row. So I do 2 rows in the same colour, and when I get to the end of the row, I just twist the yarn around each other to bring it up to the next row. But I wasn't weaving in the ends as I went along, every time I changed to a new ball of yarn. And then I came back from holiday about 10 days ago, and I had a look at it, and there was loads of ends. So I actually sat down and wove in loads of the ends that were in the middle of the row. So I'm not leaving it till I get to the end to change balls of yarn. If I look like I've got enough to get at least about halfway across the row, I will carry on. Sometimes I don't really look, and I suddenly realise when I'm in the middle of the row or towards the end of the row that I'm running out of yarn. If I'm close to running out of yarn at the end of the row, I will start a new ball then. But I have joined in quite a few new balls of yarn in the middle. The ends that are at the edges, hang on, can't find any. So there are some ends that are on the edges, like here. I'm not weaving those in. I'm going to wait because I am going to knit an edge, not knit, I'm going to crochet an edging on around the blanket. So when I do the edging, I will then weave in these ends as I go. But I did weave in all the ones in the middle of the blanket, and then I decided that from now on I was going to weave in the ends as I went along. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So I'm going to show you how I change colour. So I did actually change colour here last night, and I forgot that I was going to film this tutorial. And I thought if I don't do it now, I'll put it away, and then next time I come to change ball of yarn, sorry, not colour. Next time I come to change a new ball of yarn, I'll just forget again. So let me show you how I do it when I change to a new ball of yarn. So let's imagine I'm going to change. Let's imagine that's running out, and just to make it easier to see what I'm doing, I'm actually going to do a grey yarn. So I've done my group of 3 trebles, and I want to go straight in and do the next group of trebles. There aren't any single stitches in between. So if you were just doing a chain stitch, you could just take your new color and do a chain stitch. But because I haven't got any chain stitches in between, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to undo that last treble crochet. So I'm talking in UK terms here. So treble crochet, that's a double crochet in American terms. I will check all the terminology and I'll put a guide below, but I'm talking in UK terms here. So if you're used to using US terms, they are different, but I think treble is double crochet in the US. So I'm going to work a treble. So yarn over, in, yarn over and pull it through, and then I'm going to go yarn over and go through the first 2 stitches. So I got 2 stitches left on my hook, and then I'm going to join in. So I'm going to drop my old yarn and I'm going to pick up my new yarn and pull it through those 2 stitches. So that's how I join in a new yarn or a new ball of yarn. Normally this would be, because I'm in the middle of the row, this would be in the same color, but because I am demonstrating this, I thought I'd do it in a different color just because it's easier to see. So the stitch looks the same, it's just that last 2 loops on your hook when you pull through in the new yarn. I do this at the sides as well. So when I change colors, because I'm doing 2 rows in each color, this is a corner to corner blanket. So I'm doing 2 rows of granny trebles, and then I change color at the side. So when I change color, I do the same thing. I twist it around twist the new yarn around the old yarn, and then when I have 2 loops left on my hook, I put the new color through. And yes, it doesn't look very attractive, I don't think, but I'm going to crochet on an edging, so that'll hide all this. I haven't worked out how I'm going to do the edging yet, but we'll get to that when we get there. So that's how I change to a new ball of yarn. So I'm going to go back to my original color, because otherwise I'm going to have to undo this again later. So when you've changed balls of yarn, you'll have 1 strand. You'll have 2 strands, one going that way and one going this way. So because I did this last night before I remembered and I didn't want to undo it, I'm just going to carry on now. So you're just going to hold the strand So you leave one strand, which you're going to go on the next row, you're going to take that way. So I did that already. So now I'm coming back. This is the strand from my, let's say, old yarn. So let's say I took the new yarn that way, and then this is my old yarn. Doesn't matter which way you do it, obviously. So I leave quite a long strand. I would say probably about 20 centimeters, 8 inches. And you'll see why later. And then I'm going to just hold it along the top here. So when I go into the next space, it's just lying along the top here. Yarn over through, yarn over through. Okay, yarn over through, yarn over through. And one more. Okay, so it's just lying along the top here. Yarn over through, yarn over through, yarn over through. Let me just speed up a bit. And then I'm going to do the next one. I like to pull out quite a bit of yarn because I don't like crocheting or knitting if it's if it feels like it's pulling. So I always tend to pull out quite a bit of yarn from the ball, because I mean, not so much that it gets in a tangle, but I'll just kind of pull it to like the length of my arm probably, and then because then I don't have to stop as often to pull more yarn off, and I don't like it when it's pulling on the ball, when it's, you know, I feel like I'm fighting it when I knit or crochet. And it also helps to speed up if you pull off more yarn, but don't pull off so much that it gets into a tangle. So you can see that's still lying along the top here. Difficult to see because it's the same color, but okay. So I'll probably do, how long I'll do depends on how long my tail is. So when did I join in? Here, I think. Yeah, here. So I'll probably do, how many have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably do one more treble. So let's just do that. 2, 3. And then I'm not going to cut the yarn. I'm going to just leave the tail hanging down. That's the tail. And then I'm just going to carry on. And then when I come back, if you see, you've got these, you can't see it so well because it's pink and pink here, but I'll show you how to work those in so that it secures it a bit more. But I'm just going to leave that hanging there, finish my row, and then on the next row I'll show you how I work those in. So that's where I joined in the yarn. That's where I changed colours. And then as I was working along here, I was working in that strand. So I just pulled it. You can see it was actually a little bit loose. In a few places it was a little bit like that, a little bit loose. I've now got to the end of the row and I'm going back, and in a few places it's a little bit loose. And you can see it because it's grey below, in the row below. You can kind of see it here. So I need to pull that, and then I'm going to show you how I actually work in these ends here so they don't show up in the final blanket. So I'm working back. That's where I've left quite a long end. So when I do this method, I do leave quite a long end, and then I did that distance, which you don't need to do that far. I just got carried away, and I got quite a long end left. So whatever your tail is, work about half of it in, and then leave the tail hanging out. And then when you come back on the next row, this is where you're going to do. So this is where I am. So that's my next treble in that space, and that's where this strand is. So I'm going to do one. Hold that out of the way so I don't accidentally do it. 1, 2, and then I tend, oops, a little bit difficult to do this around the camera sitting on my bed. I've got something blocking on my main filming space downstairs, so if I was going to do this now, I would have to do it here. So that's where that is, and I want to kind of include that into that last treble. So I've done 2 trebles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hold it. I'm not going to work it with that yarn. I'm just holding it, and then I'm just going to make sure. So what I want to do is, let me see if I can hold that. So I just want to hold it with that space. So I'm not going to work it with my working yarn. So I go in, over the working yarn. I just make sure that it kind of goes through across my hook to the back. Yarn over. Let's see what I'm doing here. It's a bit difficult with the camera. Right, there we go. And yarn over, and the last one. So you can see now it kind of goes up along the side here and through that stitch there. Okay, and now I'm going to hold it, and this is a bit difficult because obviously it's the same color. So I'm going to hold it along here, but I'm also going to work in that pink strand below. So that's the next gap. So I go yarn over, and then instead of just going straight in through that hole, I actually take my hook, and you've got to be a bit careful, through underneath that strand. So can you see that strand there? I'm going underneath that strand, and I got my other rest of my tail lying along the top here. I do yarn over, and through. Hang on, yeah, yarn over and through. Hang on, split the yarn. I'm not used to doing crochet tutorials with the camera set up like this. It's a little bit tricky. There we go. Okay, so you can see that pink strand, instead of being on the top of these grey stitches, it's actually been kind of hiked up underneath these pink stitches of this pink gap. So, and the tail that I got left is just lying along the top here. So yarn over, in through the gap, just make sure that that pink strand is kind of along the top. If you think about the grey as being the floor and the pink as being the ceiling, you want it kind of stuck to the ceiling. Yarn over through, and yarn over through, and yarn over through. So one more, through. Okay, let's just pull out a little bit more working yarn here. I don't like knitting or crocheting when the yarn's getting really tight. Okay, so I've done my 3 there, so now I'm going to do the next one. So you can see at the moment that pink strand is kind of stuck to the floor. So if you think of the grey as the floor, it's kind of stuck to the floor. So I'm going to go under that pink strand, and you've got to be a bit careful to make sure you don't split it, or that you don't go into the top edge of the grey stitch, which you're not going to do. Yarn over, and I also got that strand lying along the top. 1, 2, 3, like that. So as you're working along, let me do one more. So I'm going to go under that pink strand, between that pink strand and the grey stitch. So you've got to look carefully and be careful with your hook. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So now, instead of that pink strand lying along the top of these grey stitches like it is here, it is kind of secured to the bottom of the pink stitches. It's secured under these pink stitches here. So it just helps to secure it a bit more, and it means that when you're changing color, you can't see it. So I'm just going to do that. I don't go all the way back to where I started, but just so, I think I started about, can't see, here maybe. Yeah, I think it's there. So I'm just going to do probably one more treble, and then I'm going to break this yarn. So let's just go under that pink yarn. Once you picked it up for the first one, then doing the second and the third treble in that group is a lot easier. Just got to be a bit careful with the first one. So I've done this pink yarn back quite a few groups now. So I'm going to actually break that. I don't have scissors here, so I'm just going to put it down to the front and then cut it later. So when I cut it, I just cut it fairly well, actually, I'm going to leave it for now. I'm not going to cut it yet, because when I come back on the next row, which will be a grey row, can you see here, I have these, it's not so easy to see on this one because it is all pink, but I have the pink yarn from this strand that I've just been working in, that's lying on top of my pink stitches. So it's less visible, but I still tend to work them in. Sometimes I forget because I don't see them, but if I see them, I work them in. So I'm going to leave this tail till I come back again. So it takes like, I guess, 3 rows to work it in. You don't have to do, if the colour is the same and you're happy, you don't have to work them in, but I like to do that. So if you have any questions, just ask below this video, and I hope this was helpful. Now, and I'm also not saying that this is the only way to do this. There may be other ways. Other people may be doing it a different way, but this is just the way that works for me. So try out different methods and then choose what you like. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and do consider subscribing. Most of my videos are about knitting and knitting tutorials, but I do a little bit of crochet.